Hello there, Michelle Short here, and I'm delighted to be joining you today for the Effortless Greetings by Laurie Willison release. I have 3 clean and simple cards to share with you using the Effortless Greetings project kit, but the sets can be purchased separately too. So let's get started with the first card. I'm going to be combining ink blending with foiling. I'm starting off with one of the Glimmer hot foil plate sets that come in the kit, and this is the Framed Details Glimmer hot foil plate by Laurie Willison. This is such a beautiful set. I really love these falling leaves here, and you also get a really pretty frame as well. I'm not actually using the frame today, but I did just want to mention it. It's really pretty, but I fell in love with these leaves. I'm going to foil those onto some white cardstock using the silver foil that comes in the kit. There are various different ways that you can foil. This is just one example. If you've never foiled before using the Glimmer hot foil system, I encourage you to check out some of the videos on the Spellbinders YouTube channel, because everyone does foil just slightly differently. I like to place the cardstock at the bottom, then the foil, and then the Glimmer hot foil plate on top, and then I adhere those down with some low tack tape. Once the platform is heated up and ready to go, I'm going to place my piece down with the foil plate down onto the platform, and then press the timer button. Once the timer has stopped flashing, I can just remove the platform from the base. I do like to add a piece of scrap paper over the top, and then I'm using the 2 shims on top of that, and then running the whole thing through the Platinum 6 die cutting machine. So just taking my time just to roll that through, and then I'm going to add the platform back into the base so that that can heat up again, ready for the next foiling. I'm then carefully lifting that piece off. The Glimmer hot foil plates do get quite hot, so be careful with those. I'm just placing that onto the silicone mat that comes with the Glimmer hot foil system. And then I have the beautiful foiling here. I can just remove that foil from the cardstock. I am going to cut this piece down, so I wasn't too concerned with how it actually worked on the piece of cardstock, but I think it came out really pretty. Next, I'm going to work on my sentiment, and I'm using the thank you sentiment from the Effortless Sentiments Glimmer hot foil plate set by Laurie Willison again, and this again comes in the kit. So like I said, I'm using that thank you sentiment, and again I'm just doing the same thing using the silver foil and foiling that onto some white cardstock. Once that's all ready, I'm going to again run that through the Platinum 6. And what I love about this set of dies for these sentiments is that they come with cutting dies as well. So that's really great. So you can do the foiling with the foiling plates, and then you can cut out these sentiments with traditional dies. So I'm just going to line that up over my foiled sentiment. Keep that in place with some low tack tape. Again, I like to just use a bit of extra scrap paper over the top of that just to protect the foiling. And then I'm going to run that through the Platinum 6. And that's just going to cut out really beautifully and leave me with a really nice foiled sentiment that's all cut out. I did get a slight bit of overfoiling on the leaves plate here, but I'm just removing that with a craft knife. And then I'm going to add the ink blending onto the panel. So I'm using 3 colours of the FSJ True Fusion colour inks. The first one here that I'm starting off with is the Lavender Fusion colour. It's really pretty. I'm using an ink blending brush here and just adding that ink over the foiling at the top. I have cut this piece down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches. And as you can see, when you add the ink over the top, the foil resists it. So it's really nice to be able to combine the 2 different techniques. Next, I'm going in with the Huckleberry Fusion colour. This is a really pretty blue shade. And I'm just going to add that underneath the lavender colour. and just kind of blend that up towards the lavender as well, so that they blend quite nicely together. And then I'm going to go in with the Turbo Teal right at the bottom and try and blend that out to white at the bottom. And again, blend that with the Huckleberry Fusion in the middle. And then I do go back in with that blue and just add a little bit more to the middle. I'm then going to use the FSJ Sparkle Silk, and I'm just going to splatter some of that onto the panel. This just gives it a little bit of extra sparkle. There is already quite a lot with the foiling, but I quite like that added sparkle as well. I have added foam tape onto the back of the panel, and I'm adding it onto an A2 sized white card base, so that's a finished size of 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. And then I'm adding some Journey foam squares onto the back of the sentiment. I can remove the backings of those and place that down onto the card. I was debating whether to add some embellishments onto this card, but ultimately I liked it how it was. I think the ink blending works really nicely with the foiling, and I also love that added splatter from the sparkle silk, so I think that worked quite nicely on its own. So moving on to the second card, again I'm going to do some ink blending, but in a slightly different way. This is the stamp set that you get in the set. This is the Floral Love clear stamp set, and I'm using this really beautiful large floral bouquet image here, and I'm going to stamp that onto a panel of Huckleberry Fusion cardstock using Huckleberry Fusion ink. So I'm going to stamp it once to start with, and then I'm going to use the Huckleberry Fusion ink again and an ink blending brush, and I'm going to add some ink blending around the edges of this panel. I think it makes a really big difference with how it looks at the end, just adding that small amount of ink blending around the edges. To make the image pop against that ink blending, I'm just going to stamp it down again, just to intensify the colour, and then I left that panel to dry for a few hours before I did the foiling on top. This is the Foiled Brushstrokes and Stripes Glimmer Hot Foil Plate set by Laurie Willison, again that's in the kit, and I really love this set. You've got lots of different types of stripes here, and I'm just going to use the plain stripes, 2 of those, you get them in different sizes, and I'm going to foil this onto the panel with the gold foil that comes in the kit. So I've cut a really thin strip of the foil, placing that down where I want it to be, and then again I'm going to use some low tack tape just to hold that in place while I do the foiling. It sometimes is a little bit difficult to make sure that the stripes are straight. That's why I found if you cut the foil into really thin strips, I found it easier to actually line up the plates. So once that's heated up, again I'm adding the shims on top and running that through the Platinum 6. And I'm going to do the same thing with one of the smaller stripes. I found that I got better results if I did them separately rather than together. I did have a practice run to start with, and I definitely think they lined up better doing them separately. It does take a little bit more work, but I do like the finished result. So just removing that first one here, and I think that that works really nicely against that blue panel. Like I said, I did the same thing with the smaller stripe, so I'm just removing that here as well and just lifting that off. And then I'm going to add a sentiment over the top. This is the Everyday Sentiments 2 Glimmer Hot Foil Plate set. This doesn't come in the kit. This is a separate item, but I thought that the sentiments would work really nicely. So again, I'm just adding a piece of foil there, the gold foil, and then the glimmer plate over the top, heating that up and then running that through the Platinum 6 again. And then I can remove that, carefully removing the tape and the plate, And I think, like I said, that works really nicely with the gold against the blue. And I've simply just added some foam tape onto the back of this panel and adhering it down onto an A2 sized white card base. And again, I thought this was really pretty on its own without adding any extra embellishments. And I really like how that ink blending just adds a bit more kind of dramaticity, is that a word, onto the card. So moving on to the final card here, again I'm using ink blending and foiling, but in a slightly different way. So again I'm using the foiled Brushstrokes and Stripes Glimmer Hot Foil Plate set. And this time I'm using more of the distressed type stripes. I really love that you get different ones in the set. This time I'm going to foil onto white cardstock using the silver foil again. So just heating that panel up and then running that through the Platinum 6. The kit contains 4 pre-kitted card projects, including instructions, supply lists and everything you need to get started straight away. But there is lots of inspiration from designers on how you can use the contents in other ways too, like the one I'm sharing with you now. And they are available on the Spellbinders blog and also on the YouTube channel. So I have foiled those 2 distressed stripes first, and I'm just adding another on the top here. I used the same one as the top stripe and just turned that over to use the other side. So I've just foiled that again with that silver foil, and I really like just the plain silver against the white card. I've added the panel onto an A2 sized white card base, and I used some tape runner just to adhere that on the top. And then I'm going to take the Hello Sentiment die cut that comes in the kit. This is already cut out for you, and I'm going to add some ink blending onto this. I'm using 3 shades of the True Colour Fusion ink pads from FSJ. So this is the darkest one here at the bottom, and that is the Catalina Splash colour. So just using an ink blending brush again, just to add that on the bottom. And then I'm going in with the mid-tone shade, and that's the Blue Lagoon. So just adding that over where I've already ink blended and just moving the colour further up. And then I'm going in with that Turbo Teal colour again, just to add that over the top of that. There isn't a huge difference when I'm ink blending with the kind of middle shade and the top shade, so I do just go back in with that darkest shade and just add a bit more towards the bottom. And then I'm going to add some Journey foam squares onto the back of that and place that down onto my card. And I really like how those blues work with that silver foiling in the background. I have then foiled an accompanying sentiment using the silver foil onto black cardstock, and for that I used the Everyday Sentiments 2 Glimmer Hot Foil Plate set again and just cut that down. I'm then using the Tool and One here just to add some of the silver fashion embellishments. You do get a strip of these in the kit as well, and I thought that they would work really nicely with that silver foil. So just placing 3 of those down onto the card, and that's the 3rd card finished for today. Like I said, I really love the simplicity of the silver stripes against the white card base. Thanks so much for joining me today for a look at the Effortless Greetings project kit. Link to the supplies used are in the description box on YouTube as well as over on the blog. Thank you so much for watching and have a wonderful day.